The following program may contain coarse language, violence, nudity, mature subject matter, or scenes which may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell, coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send us a message, xzone at xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, X Zone Radio TV. And we're coming to you tonight on the Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, and on Channel 34 on Simul TV. Wow, tonight, my guest this hour is the man who I consider to be the main whistleblower when it comes to, did America really go to the moon? BART SIBREL is his name. And we all know Bart from his two great videos. First one is A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon and Astronauts Gone Wild. Joining me now is BART SIBREL. And Bart, welcome back to the X Zone. Always great talking to you.
Hey, Rob, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going good. First of all, before we start, Bart, America is going back to the moon. Are they going to hoax this one too?
Well, they've said they're going to return to the moon 10 times in the last 50 years. They said we're going to return to the moon in 5 years during the Carter administration, then during the Reagan administration, then during the Bush Sr. administration, then during the Clinton administration twice. Then Bush Jr. said it, then Obama said it, and they're never able to do it. So I don't think they'll be able to do it. That's why there's mannequins orbiting the moon in the Artemis mission. Pretty weird, isn't it? 50 years ago, with 1/1,000,000th the computing power of a cell phone, they can play golf and drive cars on the moon. But somehow, with 5 decades better rockets and computers, they can't even land. They can't even orbit the moon with people. They have to send mannequins because of course, lethal space radiation. And if you go to sibrel.com, one of the buttons at the top says Moon Man Video Links, which is my interactive book. And you can see these links for free. And one of them is NASA saying, their own scientists saying the technology necessary to send an astronaut to the moon and back and survive has yet to be invented.
Wow.
So how about that?
Bart, one of the questions that I received from our viewers who knew that you were coming on the show tonight is, how did Bart get involved in his investigation into the moon hoax?
Well, I grew up like everybody else, assuming that they were real, and even more so. I had pretty much a shrine to Apollo 11 in my house for 10 years or more. I was asleep in bed at the time, 4 years old, but my father was in the Air Force. And as we know from the book Moon Man at sibrel.com, the fake moon landing was filmed at an Air Force base. So my father got a VIP package of the celebration of the color prints of Apollo 11. He gave them to me as a 4-year-old. They were my most cherished present. I had them up on the bedroom wall from the age of 4 to 14, meaning for the following 10 years, I saw them 3,650 times. It was a literal shrine. And, you know, they're kind of mesmerizing, assuming they were on the moon. And then I'm 14 years old, and I see a television program by the name of, it was either Oprah or something else, but Bill Casey was one of the first guests on Oprah. And he wrote a book called We Didn't Go to the Moon. He worked for NASA for 6 years during the Apollo program with very high security clearance. In fact, he would edit the memos coming from von Braun to the Pentagon and back to correct his grammar because he, you know, German was his first language. So he read a memo from von Braun that warned the Pentagon that if they tried to go in less than 10 years, then they would kill the crew 99.97% chance on live TV. And that they simply bluffed, like having crap in poker. And that's why they had 1,000 times greater space traveling technology in 1969 than today. I mean, today, they can only send a human being 1,000th the distance to the moon. So that means with all of NASA having 1/1,000,000th the computing power of a cell phone, they were ahead of schedule and sent astronauts with 1960s technology 1,000 times farther than they can send it today with 5 decades better technology, which means they're claiming that there was better technology, 1,000 times better in the past than in the future. Of course, that's an impossibility. So I start hearing these things, and I go back to my bedroom wall, and I start looking at the pictures with a critical mind, eyes wide shut. And sure enough, you see pretty clearly in the early prints, which they have since color corrected. Because if you go online, you see the soil of the moon, allegedly, is bluish gray, and the background is bluish gray, but not so in the original prints. In the original prints, the background was bluish gray, but the soil was the color it really is, which is a caramel brown. And you could see really clear where the real soil was and where the fake backdrop began. And I'm thinking, isn't that interesting? So fast forward another 10 years. At this point in the story, I'm 24 years old, more than half my life ago. And I had become a filmmaker. And of course, a filmmaker's job is to make fake scenes look real. That's how I could tell that they were filmed with electrical lighting. In fact, you can prove that the moon landings are fake with one picture. Very simple. I could do a screen share if you want, or you can go to sibrel.com, click on Moonman video links, and click on link 1. You'll see that when you stand out in sunlight, like they claim all the pictures on the moon were, 2 objects, 2 trees, 2 people, whatever, their shadows always run parallel. It's impossible for them to intersect. And then in a picture, allegedly from the last mission to the moon, we have an astronaut shadow going at 12 o'clock and a rock about 5 feet away, shadow going at 9 o'clock. 90-degree difference from objects 5 feet apart. That's impossible to happen in sunlight, which means it's electrical light, which means they're on Earth. That's just it. You could prove that in a court of law. So I was editing one day for the guy who had produced the show I saw 10 years earlier. And I'm like, do you remember the guy on your show who said we didn't go to the moon? I'd like to talk to him. I mean, this is really interesting. So he put me in touch with him, and he said, hey, you're a filmmaker. You should do a film about whether we went to the moon or not. So I said, well, let me think about it. And Rob, I took off about 6 months. I literally did nothing but paid myself a salary from savings and investigated it for 6 months. Shadows intersecting, 2 of the 3 astronauts not giving interviews, the administrator resigning before the first mission, the Soviets doing every milestone first, the weird behavior of the astronauts. And I come to the conclusion that there's at least a 1 out of 4 chance that they did indeed fake the moon landing. And I kind of have a relentless, never give up personality. I like puzzles. And so I thought if anyone could find out whether we went to the moon or not, it would be me. And then I realized if they didn't go and I start overturning these rocks, that could be dangerous. Am I willing to risk my life for what Nixon did all those years ago? I said no. I said, I want to have a wife and a family someday. I turned down the project. And then years later, I had another client, famous Christian musician, and they said they would get one of my screenplays to a famous Hollywood producer if I would do them a favor. And I'm like, oh, well, what favor? They said, read the Bible. And I'm like, well, okay, that's pretty good trade. So they got me a 1-year Bible, which divides the Bible into 365 days, January 1st through December 31st. Takes about 15 minutes a day. So over the next 5 years, Rob, I actually read the Bible 5 times from cover to cover. Now, I wasn't a Christian by any means, ask anybody, but it did develop in me acknowledgement that there is good versus evil. I mean, come on, it's obvious. There are dark forces, and the way that they get away with their crimes is by lying about it, and most of them run the world. I mean, if you believe in the Bible, there's the part where Jesus was being tempted by the devil, and the devil said plainly, if you bow down and worship Lucifer, he'll give you all the kingdoms of the world because they belong to Lucifer. That's why the world leaders are so corrupt. Lucifer said, I give them to my people. So that's right in the Bible. So I'm thinking, this is important. I mean, you have to think about it. Either one of the two happened. Either they went to the moon, planted a flag, and for some strange reason, nobody can do it 50 years later, or they lied about it. They embezzled an equivalent of $200 billion. They murdered several people who we have the names of, and they printed it on coins and on stamps, gave them ticker tape parades, gave them medals of honor for being such good liars. If that's true, that's actually more significant historically than if they had actually gone. Do you see that, Rob? The
I do.
faking of the landing. Yeah. And so it dawned on me, if they really faked it, that's so much more profound than if they had actually gone. I said, look, I'm going to die anyway. The truth is worth dying for. This is important.
Yeah.
So little be known to me, at the time, I actually did risk my life. And the book Moon Man goes into detail for the very first time, that's not in the film, of how I was literally kidnapped and drugged by the CIA the day after I found classified footage of them faking being halfway to the moon. On the doorsteps of CNN, literally ready to give it to a journalist I knew at CNN, abducted and drugged to the point of vomiting. And the tape was confiscated, which of course is a copy, but that happened. And I go into great detail in the chapter. A funny thing happened on the way to CNN, which you can read at sibrel.com or get the audiobook that I read myself. And so many strange things happened. And then, more than that, I mean, these films, they cost $1 million. And you know who gave me the money? Somebody who builds rockets for NASA, who knows they were fake, who doesn't want his stock to go down, so asked me to keep his name anonymous. I mean, imagine that. That's where our money came from. And so I'm like, I try to give them the benefit of the doubt as long as possible. I mean, when I hear Kennedy had affairs, I'm like, look, the guy's not here to defend himself. I don't want to go there. It's not right. So I'm like, I'm going to assume they went until I know otherwise. And then 3.5 years into a 7-year production that cost nearly $1 million, I pop in a tape that a whistleblower at NASA gave me. It says on the screen, do not show to the public. I'm like, oh, this should be good. I hit fast forward and I'm seeing the same shot for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes. It's a special effects shot. The thing is time-stamped by a NASA computer 2 days after they left. They are absolutely 100% faking with a 1-foot model, pretending to be halfway to the moon. I showed the tape to the director at NBC News. He had a heart attack practically. He said, oh my God, this absolutely proves they never left Earth orbit and therefore the moon missions are fake. I said, yeah, what do we do? He said, I will not broadcast it. It'll cause a civil war. I will not go down in history as the man who caused a civil war. Can you believe this? And I said, well, let me make sure I understand this. You're saying that if we show the public how corrupt the federal government is, that it'll bring an end to the corrupt federal government? I mean, isn't that supposed to happen? He literally feared that it would cause a civil war. And so 10 years go by. Another news director digs up the same footage. She says, this is proof they didn't go to the moon. We're going to buy exclusive rights. They flew me to New York. They put me up in the Waldorf Astoria. They're going to break the story. Nationwide special report, NBC News. Every TV station in the world of NBC. The moon landings are fake. Here's the proof. They get a call from the federal government threatening them, and they backed down. Wow. And, let me mention something that happened today. I got an email from someone, and I don't remember the person's name, but it's a gentleman who's like 76 years old. He has a website. It has chemtrails on there, or, don't trust the government about that. JFK, wasn't killed by Oswald. 9/11 and all these other things, and the guy thinks the moon landings are real. And I'm thinking, well, why is that? When something destructive happens, like killing a president, 9/11, it's easy to see evil behind that, isn't it? I mean,
sure.
Okay, so which evil person is doing this? But this is candy. The moon landing is candy. The moon landing happened when Nixon said the greatest threat to America wasn't Russia, wasn't China. It was Americans protesting because of the Vietnam War. We got the CIA code name from an eyewitness who was there. We put this in my book. It's exclusively in the book at sibrel.com. He eyewitnessed the faking of the moon landing while he stood beside President Johnson. Okay? All of this is in the book, the details, the base, the dates, and everything. Johnson came up with the code name. Okay? The code name for faking the moon landing was called Operation Slam Dunk, because if you faked the moon landing, you can 100% guarantee its success. So it's a slam dunk. And so That was why they did it. They wanted to give the American public some candy. So this guy, this wise man, believes that the American government murdered 3,000 of their own people on one day, but doesn't believe they would fake an image on a television because it's candy. He's having to give up his candy and swallow a turd instead. And even he, who knows 9/11 was our own government murdering our own people, refuses to accept that the moon landings are fake. He knows about chemtrails. He knows about JFK, RFK, but he still holds on that the government wouldn't fake a TV image because that it's burned in him. He cried, he prayed, he waved his flag. They're heroes. Oh, no, I don't want to give that up. I want to believe in Santa Claus. I mean, I'm sorry. When I popped in the tape, Rob, and I saw them faking being halfway to the moon with the third track of audio from the CIA telling them to fake a 4-second radio delay, I'm like, oh my gosh, they really did fake the moon landing. I just wept. It's so sad.
I remember watching a funny thing happened on the way to the moon when you sent it to us way back when. And on that specific footage you're talking about, or that clip, you could actually hear somebody say, go.
Yeah, they say talk. Basically, right. Here we are 50 years later and they can't leave Earth orbit, right? That's why there's mannequins orbiting the moon. Well, they can't leave Earth orbit now, and they certainly couldn't leave Earth orbit then. So they had to fake being halfway to the moon. So this is actually the only footage that the astronauts faked themselves. They were on the rocket so they could go up in front of witnesses and they could splash down and they could have, the tuna sandwich floating by in zero gravity, but they never left Earth orbit. And so they were faking being halfway to the moon. You can see this footage for free at sibrel.com. Click on the top left button called Moonman Video Links and go to the clip that says Smoking Gun. And you'll see that they claim their lens was at the window to shoot a little blue ball Earth with black all around it, which is what the TV image looks like. We have the unedited version. The lights come up, the camera's at the back of the spacecraft, they turn out the lights, and you're seeing part of the Earth outside of a circular window in Earth orbit. It's really clever. I mean, it's a really clever 1-foot model of the Earth. And then at the very beginning of it, you hear something like, NASA says, hey, Apollo 11, this is NASA. The TV picture looks great. Then there's dead air for 1 second, dead air for 2 seconds, dead air for 3 seconds, dead air for 4 seconds. And then you hear a third party, not NASA, not the astronauts, say, talk. And Neil Armstrong speaks. And so they're telling them, don't answer right away because it'll give away the fact you're close to the Earth. There's supposed to be a 2-second radio delay going out and coming back. And they made sure through the earpiece that they didn't speak prematurely. Only speak after we count off 4 seconds to create a fake radio delay. And so there's this, pro NASA video distribution company that after my film comes out says, oh, the footage is publicly available. No, it wasn't. No one had it except me. After my film comes out, then they release it to make it look like it's no big deal, but they edit out talk. And their version, they removed the third track of audio of the CIA. Well, if they really went to the moon, why did they do that? I mean, it boggles the mind. This tape proved it to 2 NBC news directors that the moon missions are fake. It proved it to me. It proved it to you. It proves it to almost everybody who sees it. What can you do? They faked it.
Hey, Bart, with everybody else going to the moon, are they faking it as well? The other countries that are going?
Well, they're sending unmanned probes. The amount of weight that you need to send a probe is probably 1% of the amount of weight you need to send a human being with radiation shielding and water and oxygen and safety equipment. You can X-ray a toaster 1,000 times and it'll still make toast for you. Try X-raying a human being 1,000 times and see what happens. I mean, when you get a dental X-ray that lasts 1/30th of a second, you have 1/8 of an inch of lead. I think it's a 1/4 inch of lead for 1/30th of a second. And when they went to the moon, they had 1/8 of an inch of aluminum going through radiation that is so severe it would kill you probably within 2 days of going through it. That's why Kelly Smith, one of the clips at Sibrel.com, says that there's this dangerous radiation surrounding the Earth that no human has ever been through, except allegedly going to the moon. Every other orbital flight is below it. And he said the technology necessary to survive going through this radiation on a trip to the moon and back has yet to be invented. So how did they go to the moon exactly in 1969? This is why there's mannequins orbiting the moon, because of the deadly radiation. So we have them faking being halfway to the moon, which means they can't leave Earth orbit then, and they still can't leave Earth orbit now.
And of course, you're talking about the Van Allen belt, are you not?
Yeah, this is a field of radiation most people don't even know about. It's not taught in school. It starts at about 1,000 miles above the Earth. The most distance that astronauts generally go is around 250 miles to the space station. So 750 miles above that is a field of radiation that is so severe, if you go just to 350 miles, right? We're talking about 650 miles below it, you can close your eyes and see the radiation as sparks of light. That's how dangerous it is. Imagine there was a meltdown from you, 650 miles away, nuclear meltdown, you close your eyes and you can see sparks of light coming from the reactor. That's how dangerous this radiation is. You can see it from 650 miles away. And then it's 30,000 miles thick. And even traveling at the speed they were allegedly going, you'd be in it for more than an hour going to the moon and in it for more than an hour coming back. It is at least 100 times greater than a lethal dose, and possibly 1,000 times greater. We have all this documented in the book, and we have several video clips of them saying so. And so when NASA sent a probe into the radiation to U-turn and come back, meaning the whole point was to measure the radiation, they did it in 2014, and they had 2 Geiger counters on this unmanned spacecraft. So I said, hey, I'm a journalist. This is a non-military, civilian-funded mission. Can I please have the radiation Geiger counter readings? They said, no, Mr. Sibrel, it's a military secret. And I'm like, really? Is the temperature of the sun a military secret? Is that how much radiation or how much helium is in Jupiter's atmosphere? Is that a military secret? No, it's just nature. So why would the amount of radiation surrounding the Earth be a military secret? Well, because it proves the Apollo missions never happened. I even have an astronaut, an Astronaut's Gone Wild, which you can see for free at Sibrel.com, saying on camera, we never went through the radiation belt. I had to remind him he supposedly did going to the moon. And he goes, oh, I guess we did that. I'm sorry.
Was that Alan Bean?
Yeah, it was. Alan Bean.
I don't know how many times I watched those 2 movies that you did, Bart. And as I've said to you many times over the years, my hat is off to you, my friend.
Well, yeah, I like the first one because it's poetic and very well edited and everything. The second one, kind of makes me nervous watching it. Sometimes I'm like, I did it because I was in the right. And when you're in the right and God's got your back, you're bold. And these guys did commit a fraud. They committed treason. They embezzled money. Their participation in faking the moon landing led to the murder of several of their friends who they knew personally.
Let's talk about that when we come back from the short break. BART SIBREL is our special guest, Sibrel.com. Man alive. You've got to see these videos. Please go to Bart's website. The truth is out there. In fact, if they ever do the X-Files over again and they say the truth is out there, Bart, they should have your picture there in your website underneath your picture. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
Question: what is the name of the unique blend of coffee you get that has been formulated by a neurologist, a neurobiologist, and a pharmaceutical chemist? Answer: you get Beautiful Mind Coffee, a unique coffee blend that tastes great and has herbal ingredients that your brain will love, and it is not just coffee, it's brainalicious. Dr. Rathbone, Dr. Chang, and Dr. Winslow, the scientific team that created Beautiful Mind Coffee, decided to collaborate on a coffee focusing on brain health. As for those herbal ingredients found in Beautiful Mind Coffee, Dr. Rathbone, Dr. Jang, and Dr. Winslow, utilizing their combined extensive scientific research background, worked with many natural and herbal products until the exact formulation that is found in Beautiful Mind Coffee was created. With a unique scientific formula not found in any other coffee being sold or served, Beautiful Mind Coffee is the only coffee blend that contains 3 herbal ingredients found to aid in boosting your daily mental clarity and focus. Every cup of Beautiful Mind Coffee contains scientifically formulated amounts of maca root powder, green tea extract, and American ginseng, all supporting good brain health. Taking care of your brain's health now can help delay or prevent the onset of cognitive dysfunction, including dementia, Alzheimer's, and more general memory loss as you get older, just by enjoying the delicious flavor of our roasted coffee and herbal ingredients found exclusively in Beautiful Mind Coffee. Did you know that cognitive dysfunction also refers to deficits in attention, verbal and nonverbal learning, short-term and working memory, visual and auditory processing, problem solving, processing speed, and motor functioning? For more on Beautiful Mind Coffee, the 3 scientists who formulated Beautiful Mind Coffee, and more details on the 3 unique herbal ingredients in Beautiful Mind Coffee, visit www.beautifulmindcoffee.ca. Beautiful Mind Coffee is now available online at amazon.ca and amazon.com. To order Beautiful Mind Coffee, visit www.beautifulmindcoffee.ca today.
Welcome back, everyone. Bart Sibrel is our special guest of this hour. In fact, every time Bart's on the show, it's a special hour. Website, sibrel.com. Bart, during the break, I had a thought. With all this talk about going to Mars, are they going to fake the Mars expeditions as well? Because if they couldn't get out of the Earth orbit because of the Van Allen belt going to the moon and the amount of radiation, isn't that belt going to pose the same problem when they go to Mars?
Well, I think what they'll do is continue to postpone. I mean, it's amazing. I don't know how it happens, but a politician running for president promises they will do this and then they don't, or promises they won't and then they do 6 weeks later. Somehow the public doesn't mind that. So putting it off, at some point they'll put it off, and there'll be, by that time, a comet or asteroid strike. And the last thing that's going to be on people's mind is who shot JFK or whether the moon landings are fake or not. That's probably their plan. I have other sources at NASA who told me such things are headed toward Earth, and that this little thing we've been going through for the last 3 years is actually in preparation for that. So it's like a pre-burn. If you got firefighters trying to stop a fire, they start a fire. And so this little thing they're doing is to lower the number of people around in preparation for that event, which is going to be too much of a shock in their minds to do it all too quickly. So they're preparing for it by doing it now. So at some point, no one's going to care who shot JFK, 9/11. We probably won't have a functioning government at some point. How many years away that is, I don't know. But I think economic collapse is coming next. Then they're going to push a digital currency next year. And by that time, they could say, well, we don't have the money to go to the moon. We'll postpone it another 3 years. People will forget about it. And 3 years after that, there'll probably be the comet or asteroid strike. So they're just going to keep pushing it off. They can't go to the moon, so they certainly can't go to Mars. I remember a great quote from George Bush Sr. when he said that they were, for the second time, that they were going to return to the moon in 5 years, which of course never happened. He said the reason why they were returning, word for word, is, quote, because the moon is a logical first step to Mars and beyond. Okay, you went there 6 times. So you're going from a bicycle back to a tricycle. If you've been there 6 times, then how is it a first step again? You see, I mean, imagine they've been to the North Pole 6 times and we've never been to the South Pole. And they're getting all this money together to go to the North Pole the 7th time. I'm like, come on, guys. So the idea that they have to return to the moon 7 times to practice for Mars is all the proof that they didn't go in the first place.
Bart, in your opinion, how could they perpetrate a hoax of such great magnitude with you, and I'm not saying this in a negative manner, my friend, with you being the only person that caught on? Well,
actually, many people caught on. William Cooper caught on. Bill Casing caught on. Apparently, I was 4 years old at the time, but there were churches that preached from the pulpit in 1969 that it was fake. There was a survey in 1969 that said 10% of the public thought it was fake. I'm not alone. The fact is, this is a spiritually symbolic event. When Richard Nixon, when he knew they were not on the moon, called putting a fake man on the moon the greatest event since God's creating of the universe, this is a blasphemous event, just like when they put in a poster about the Titanic, the ship that God himself could not sink. How ironic that mankind's greatest accomplishment is a complete lie. It just shows you the complete arrogance of the United States government. And actually, this is much easier to fake than JFK, 9/11, or even this thing we've been going on through the last 3 years. There's no independent press coverage. There's no, there were millions of reporters during World War II, but how many reporters are there on the moon? 0. You have to take the government's word for it. And there was a computer operator in the command center of NASA. He said afterwards, I can tell no difference whatsoever between a simulation practice and the, quote, real flight. It's just a bunch of numbers going by on a screen. So if he's in command center and cannot tell the difference, then nobody can. I mean, to say just because there were 100,000 people involved that it must be real, that's like saying what the CEO of, this bank that collapsed, what they knew about the fraud and what the bank teller knew about the fraud were the same. I mean, the bank teller is clueless to what's going on. I mean, do you really think the CIA is so stupid to tell the person making the glove or the door handle or the boot, hey, we're really not going to the moon? Be sure not to tell anybody. I mean, come on. Once they were up, who knew where they were? And according to NASA, they had launched the Tetra A satellite to simulate transmissions coming from the moon. So even if you tried to triangulate it, which I don't know who could do except Russia and maybe China, you would have no clue where the radio signals were coming from. And then people say, well, wouldn't Russia or China tell? Well,
yeah,
no,
exactly.
Actually,
why
not? Because imagine I had a picture of a world leader with a prostitute. Okay, I upload it to the internet, I take them down. And now it's not worth anything. Now I can't make $1 off of it, right? The smart thing is to blackmail them year after year after year. I know somebody, Rob, who works in the command center of the Chinese Space Agency. Okay? He told me the following. Everybody knows that the moon missions were fake. They have an agreement with NASA not to call them on it in exchange for technology, meaning China is blackmailing the United States of America, getting technology that they could use to nuke us with, theoretically, because we're covering up the moon landing fraud and they know about it. Isn't that a much better use of China's information than making us look bad?
It is.
Right? Yeah, it's a much smarter use.
In Astronauts Gone Wild, you challenged the lunar astronauts to swear on the Bible that they actually went to the moon. Were you surprised that they all were so, like, no, we didn't. No, I'm not. We went to the moon, but I'm not going to put my hand on the Bible. I thought at one point Neil Armstrong was going to, but then he backed away really fast.
Well, Buzz and I had some conversations off the record, and he made it clear to me the reason why he did not swear on the Bible was because he believed in God. So that should tell you right there that the moon missions are fake. And if I walked on the moon and someone thought it was all done in a TV studio, I would find that hysterically funny. I would be like, of course I'll swear in the Bible. Would 2 help? 3? Would that make you feel better? But what it was like is walking up to him in front of his wife and saying, "Oh, your mistress Susie says hello." Then he's mad. You see, a sword with no point causes no injury.
Right.
I got a reaction because it's true. And the only guy who swore in the Bible was an avowed atheist. I mean, the guy spent his whole life saying that there's no God, and then he swears on the Bible. He also spent his whole life saying UFOs are real. Well, they're about as real as the moon landing, right? The guy claims to be a peace guru, says, "I don't hit people," and less than 5 seconds later, when the person has their back to him, hits them.
Yeah.
And then in the commotion, as you know, we accidentally left a wireless microphone on the guy. And after being assaulted by an astronaut, my camera guy's so shook up, he forgets to hit stop recording. So while we're leaving, while the camera is in the back seat of the rental car, we're actually recording the private conversations inside the house with the door closed of an Apollo astronaut and his son, in which conversation they say word for word, "Do you want to call the CIA and have him whacked?" Referring to me. Now, if they really went to the moon, and I'm some silly person who thinks it was done at Cannon Air Force Base, then why would the CIA have to be involved? Who would care? And also, why is a civilian astronaut so chummy that he has the CIA in his Rolodex? It's another good question. Why does an Apollo astronaut, know about the CIA? And then it gets worse. I mean, in my book, the second to the last chapter is called NASA's Greatest Fear, because there was a lot of information I knew was factual that I was asked not to put in the film. A funny thing happened on the way to the moon. That is in the book at sibrel.com. I interviewed the family of the crew that was going to be the first man to walk on the moon, Betty Grissom. I interviewed Betty Grissom for 4 hours. She told me the following. A couple of weeks before my husband died, he was so furious that the equipment was so inept, nowhere near capable of going to the moon. He held a press conference without permission where he took a bunch of reporters at NASA to the top of the rocket and hung a lemon on the front door of it the size of a grapefruit, calling the thing on national TV a lemon. Then she told me days later, on January 26, 1967, he came home from work and told her the following. "Hun, for some strange reason, the CIA is all over the launch pad today. I wonder why. Never saw him here before. I wonder why they're here now." The very next day, the guy is dead. What a coincidence. His wife told me, not me. His wife said he was murdered by the CIA. I put that in my book for the first time because she's now passed away. And then, as I'm editing my book, I'm put in touch with a guy who I don't even mention his name in the book, but I'll mention it here, Rob. A man by the name of Cyrus Eugene Akers. Cyrus Eugene Akers was the chief of security at the United States Air Force's most secretive base. It's not Area 51. All military branches have their intelligence special ops division, and the United States Air Force's special ops division is Cannon Air Force Base in Clovis, New Mexico. And then I remembered my interview with Bill Casey that I literally took off my own archives, popped it in. I said, "Didn't he mention something about the Air Force?" He said, "Yes. The supervising of the faking of the moon landing was done by the United States Air Force." So this guy, Cyrus Eugene Akers, got terminally ill, started to die, days away from dying. And on his deathbed, fearing the judgment of God to come, right? According to the Bible, if we confess our sin and simply commit to not doing it again, we're forgiven. He said, "I want to confess I'm a murderer. I killed a close friend at Cannon Air Force Base because we both eyewitnessed the faking of the moon landing. June 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of 1968, my friend thought it was morally wrong. He was going to tell a reporter, and as the chief of security, I executed him to cover up the moon landing fraud. You don't make that stuff up as you're dying." He said he stood beside President Johnson, who gave him a list of 15 VIP visitors. Only these people were allowed in. I published that list in the book at sibrel.com. Buzz Aldrin is on the list. Neil Armstrong is on the list. Von Braun is on the list. and the flight directors and some CIA agents' names are on the list. They did fake the moon landing. Johnson was there. This is why Johnson did not run for re-election when he was eligible, because the next term was going to be the faking of the moon landing. And what if you got caught? He didn't want to play with that hot potato, you see? So that's why. And sure enough, according to his own diary, he was on vacation an hour away on June 1st, 1968. And according to another person on the list, who I never heard of, some science fiction writer for the government called Robert Emenager, who I believe is still alive, in his own memoir, he said he was at Cannon Air Force Base in 1968 for a classified reason, and here he is on my list as an eyewitness to the moon landing fraud. So we have 4 incontrovertible proofs. Each one would prove it by itself in a court of law. Shadows intersecting at 90 degrees that they claim is sunlight on the moon, which is impossible, which means it's electrical light, which means they're on Earth. Secondly, classified footage. You pop in, it says don't show to the public. 2 news directors at NBC agreed it proves they never left Earth orbit. We have the 3rd track of audio of the CIA telling them to fake a 4-second radar delay. That proves it by itself. Third, we have an eyewitness. If I eyewitness someone shoot someone at a Quickie Mart, that'll put them away. So we have an eyewitness who says he eyewitnessed the faking of the moon landing. And then we have simple logic. Today, with 50 years better technology, they can only send a human being 1,000th the distance to the moon. You cannot have 1,000 times better space traveling technology in 1969 than today. If it weren't for people's Santa Claus addiction to the glory of the moon landing, people would see it for what it is. It's the proof of the complete arrogance of the United States government. And maybe my news director friend was right. Maybe this would be the finger out of the dike, because this is different. Whoever killed JFK, he's dead. Whoever did 9/11, they're dead. But this is different. This is a positive lie. This is taking candy away from a child and giving them a turd instead. I think the news director might have been right. It would enrage the public. And then the very next can of worms they're going to have to open up is the Apollo 1 fire, whose dead relatives have been saying for 50 years that they were murdered by the CIA. It'd be one thing if they faked the moon landing and didn't kill anybody. Then good for them. They're pretty clever. But when you murder your own people to cover it up, that is not acceptable. The first document of America is the Declaration of Independence. It says when any government becomes destructive of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. Well, life, number one, they murdered their own people. Not my opinion, opinion of the dead man's widow, opinion of the dead man's son, who's a 747 pilot. They were murdered by the CIA to cover up the moon landing fraud. They're destructive of life. And now you have to ask permission to open your business, permission to go to church, permission to go shopping, permission to go to the beach. Okay, if one person can tell another person they can only have 4 people at their birthday party and you get 5 there, I will shut off your electricity and drag you off to jail. Then one person is a master and the other person is a slave. I don't care if 9 out of 10 people are dropping dead. It is your right to open your business under those circumstances and take that chance. It's your right to go shopping under those circumstances, because 1 out of the 10 is still going to need toilet paper and tuna fish, right? So, I mean, do you realize that statistically you're more likely to die in a car crash on the way to church than you are from an infectious disease that you catch at church? Yeah. So we should make cars illegal. We should make everybody have to walk everywhere. I mean, this idea that the government is our nanny, that we have to go to and ask them for permission, they are taking away our life. They are taking away our liberty. And if going to church or the beach or opening my business is my pursuit of happiness, they've destroyed that too. And the idea that we are lied to and told that we have a democracy and that we're free when we're more enslaved than anybody else is as big a joke as saying we have the best health care in the world when 70% of Americans are on prescription medicine. Whatever country in the world has 70% of their people sick all the time has the worst health care in the world. You remove cancer and heart disease, guess what the number 1 cause of death is? Medical malpractice. I cannot believe it. We're being told we're free when we're the biggest bunch of slaves on the planet. There's more freedom in the Philippines, where I am. A lot more freedom. You know how much it costs to open a business here? Hardly anything, because they don't overregulate people. Last time I listened to NPR, there was a story about the state regulators saying a kitchen door had to open into the dining room, and the city regulators saying it had to open up into the kitchen. And if either of them didn't do it that way, they'd get a $10,000 fine. That's our government. I mean, it's so ludicrous. They did do 9/11. They did kill Kennedy. Killing Kennedy by the CIA, that's not even my opinion. That's Bobby Kennedy Jr.'s opinion. Bobby Kennedy Jr. has more access to the Kennedy assassination files than Oliver Stone. And if he says his uncle was killed by the CIA, then I believe him. And if the Apollo 1 astronauts' relatives say they were murdered by the CIA, I believe him. And if a former vice president of a certain medicine company says a certain medicine is not good for you, I believe him. Because every TV, newspaper, every radio said men were on the moon when they were in New Mexico. And just because every TV and newspaper says there's an illness floating around and this medicine is good for you, doesn't mean it's true. So there's my rant. Thank you very much.
Bart, a couple of quick questions because the time is marching on here. Capricorn 1, was that a mockumentary then of the filming of the moon mission?
Absolutely. I mean, that will, if you look at the cast of that film, it's mind-boggling. Every top Hollywood actor was in Capricorn 1. The what is it? Who was in Forrest Gump? What's his name? Tom Hanks. The Tom Hanks of the day was Elliot Gould. He's the star of it. Then you have Sam Waterston. You have Hal Holbrook. You know, one of the top actors in the 1970s. Karen Black, Telly Savalas. And all these people were in this movie because Hollywood recognized as filmmakers that those scenes that they claim were on the moon were done with electrical studio lighting. I recognized it. So they made a film about a fake Mars landing. And now they backtrack. I mean, they backtrack now and say, oh, no, we just made it anyway. We really believe the moon landings are real. Really? You spent millions of dollars making NASA look like a bunch of con artists because you really think they went to the moon. How they backtrack now and say, oh, no, we just made it for fun. I mean, give me a break.
What jurisdiction why is the CIA operating on the United States soil when it's not within its mandate?
They don't care. Because I think Congress passed a law in 1998 that they said by the year 2000, the Pentagon must do an audit. 20 years went by. They ignored the law 20 years in a row and said, F you to Congress. Nobody brought them to jail, right? Nobody did anything. The CIA goes on national TV, is quoted in national newspapers. We brought down this, and this democratically elected leader of this, and this country. Good for us. That's completely illegal. They're boasting about it in the open and nobody does anything about it. William Benny worked for the NSA for 30 years. He goes on national TV and says, oh, by the way, we spy on the private cell phone conversations of Supreme Court justices to get financial and sexual impropriety on them so we can blackmail them to vote the way we tell them. Not a single investigation by the Justice Department that Supreme Court justices are being blackmailed. How can that be? And yet a guy releases information that Bernie Sanders is getting more votes, but Clinton is getting more delegates anyway. And instead of going after that vote rigging, the FBI goes after the person who leaked the vote rigging. I mean, and he ends up dead by robbery. And for some reason, the robber forgot to take his wallet. You know, that's our government. They openly boast that they blackmail Supreme Court justices, and there's not a single congressional investigation.
Oh, Bart, time goes by so fast when you're with us, my friend. Always great talking to you, Bart. Do me a favor, please come back soon, because you, my friend, are one of the truly most courageous journalists I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. Thank you for all you do, Bart.
Well, thank you for your program, and just tell your listeners, viewers, they can go to sibrel.com and watch all these clips for free.
Do me a favor, take care of yourself out there.
All righty, you too.
Good night, Bart. Exonation, Bart Sibrel has been our guest this hour. SIBREL.com. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Once again, BART's website, www.sibrel, that's SIBREL.com. I'm Rob McConnell. Whatever you do, don't go away. We'll be right back.
Question: what is the name of the unique blend of coffee you get that has been formulated by a neurologist, a neurobiologist, and a pharmaceutical chemist? Answer: you get Beautiful Mind Coffee, a unique coffee blend that tastes great and has herbal ingredients that your brain will love, and it is not just coffee, it's brainalicious. Dr. Rathbone, Dr. Jang, and Dr. Winslow, the scientific team that created Beautiful Mind Coffee, decided to collaborate on a coffee focusing on brain health. As for those herbal ingredients found in Beautiful Mind Coffee, Dr. Rathbone, Dr. Jang, and Dr. Winslow, utilizing their combined extensive scientific research background, worked with many natural and herbal products until the exact formulation that is found in Beautiful Mind Coffee was created. With a unique scientific formula not found in any other coffee being sold or served, Beautiful Mind Coffee is the only coffee blend that contains 3 herbal ingredients found to aid in boosting your daily mental clarity and focus. Every cup of Beautiful Mind Coffee contains scientifically formulated amounts of maca root powder, green tea extract, and American ginseng, all supporting good brain health. Taking care of your brain's health now can help delay or prevent the onset of cognitive dysfunction, including dementia, Alzheimer's, and more general memory loss as you get older, just by enjoying the delicious flavor of our roasted coffee and herbal ingredients found exclusively in Beautiful Mind Coffee. Did you know that cognitive dysfunction also refers to deficits in attention, verbal and non-verbal learning, short-term and working memory, visual and auditory processing, problem-solving, processing speed, and motor functioning? For more on Beautiful Mind Coffee, the 3 scientists who formulated Beautiful Mind Coffee, and more details on the 3 unique herbal ingredients in Beautiful Mind Coffee, visit www.beautifulmindcoffee.ca. Beautiful Mind Coffee is now available online at amazon.ca and amazon.com. To order Beautiful Mind Coffee, visit www.beautifulmindcoffee.ca today.